This is Catherine. Welcome to our 12 p.m. Monday Facebook Live. I'm really excited today. I'm here with Merje Shaw, who owns Scandiscapes and has been part of this group pretty much from the beginning. Is that right, I think?
I think pretty much, yeah.
And I was just saying to Mary before we went live that I've been really wanting to focus the group members more in the group so you can kind of get to know each other and learn a little bit more about what each other does and learn from each other, which is of course what the group's all about. So I wanted to kick that off today. We had a meet the member Monday this week, and then last week, sorry, and then this week we are having our interview with Merje. So if any of you want to be featured, then do please drop me a note. So Merje, do you want to just start by telling us a little bit about your business, Scandiscapes?
Yeah, so Scandiscapes started as a Facebook group, actually.
Oh,
so you know how that works. We were talking with a bunch of ladies in an interiors group, a Scandi focus interiors group, about like, what do you do when you finish the house and you want to do something with the garden? And that kind of turned into this massive thread on a group. So we set up a separate group for looking out for things for the garden and things like that. So initially it was if someone found something on Amazon that would be like Scandi but also for the outside, we'd share it. What we found was there wasn't that much out there.
Right.
We just couldn't find that many things for the garden or where the nice plants came from and things like that. So when it was quiet over December and January in my other business, which is what happens in consultancies, I was like, well, I'm not doing much, so why don't I just set up a website? So I set up the website and I was like, well, I'm sure I can work out where to get things. So I worked out where to get the stock and that was kind of it. So yeah, it's been growing ever since.
Oh wow, so that's fantastic. So I didn't realize that. So it was actually started live as a Facebook group and you grew it out of, so effectively you found your customer, you found your niche and then you built it out from there.
Yeah, really. so it's more for myself than anyone else, really. So I found out what I needed and then I built it.
Sure.
And it turned out I wasn't the only one. So the Facebook group is over 2,000 members now, and it's kind of growing organically. And I'm mostly staying out of the conversations because actually people know what they want. They're looking after stuff. You know?
Wow, that's incredible. So you obviously then have a really, really clear picture of your target customer. Or you?
Yes and no. I'm still refining it.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, I've been working in customer experience for over 10 years, so I kind of know roughly what I'm looking out for. But one of the things with my target customers is the age that I'm not entirely sure of, because I've been advertising on Facebook at the moment, and that is a younger audience than I think. So for the plants, for the plant pots, for all of those things, I think that is spot on. If we're talking about larger outdoor furniture, I think I'm not speaking to the right audience yet.
Right.
But it is mostly the people I speak to are not people that live in London, because in London you've got Patch, you've got all of these wonderful companies that deliver everything to your door, whereas a large part of my customers are actually outside of London, where they're still having to visit those garden centres that have the twee frilly things with little tiny flowers and birdies and stuff. Even though their house looks beautifully Scandi and minimalist, they're still having to deal with that outdoors.
Right. I see. So you found that gap in the market for people who weren't able to get the Scandi minimalist outside products delivered to them anywhere else.
But also for a reasonable price. And this is actually one of the hardest things to do, is actually source these beautiful things for not enormous amounts of money, because there's a lot of designers that do supply outdoor furniture. I mean, I have a number of catalogs from them. They're beautiful, but completely unaffordable to anyone normal. You know?
Wow.
You have to save up for months to buy a little sofa for outside, and I think that's wrong. You know, I think we should all have nice things.
And has that been part of the, I mean, has that been a difficult journey to find to sourcing the goods, or have you found that actually you kind of done your research, it's just a question of you curating what's out there already, or is it a little bit of both?
There's a bit of both. So some things I'm absolutely failing to find. So I'm looking into manufacturing them myself now, because it's just you just can't find them. Like nice hanging brackets for outside. They all come with frills.
Right.
It's actually impossible. So if anyone knows of what do you call them, even like blacksmiths, right? If anyone knows the blacksmith,
yeah,
can give them to me. But yeah, I mean, it's quite, when you start looking for stuff, it's actually quite easy to find things. It's just I guess making sure that what you buy from those wholesalers is significantly different, and has a common thread, because there's a couple that are really good online themselves. So it's anyone who's setting up a small shop can find them very easily, which is why I'm not mentioning them. But when you start finding, it's finding the smaller ones that are not so common and maybe not so easy to get to. But still at reasonable prices. And I think that's the thing, because I could go into, someone big like House Doctor and buy a lot of really nice things, or Hey, all of these really famous Scandi design brands. But their minimum orders are ridiculous for first wholesale order. Like really? If you're self-funded, like you just can't. Which is, I suppose, how they weed out like smaller companies. So that's that. But
so it's a question of finding people who are reasonably priced, low minimum order quantities, not doing exactly the same thing as everybody else, and that also have the kind of products that when you pull them together make a cohesive selection for your business.
Exactly.
Not easy, right?
It's easy. No work at all.
So Merje, I'm interested to hear about your other business, because you mentioned it briefly. You said that you set up Scandiscapes during your downtime, but just be curious to hear a little bit more about your customer experience and sort of how that has helped you setting up a second business. Has it been, do you feel like it's helped with your learning curve, or is it totally different?
Massively. Like actually one of the things I discovered was that setting up a product business after having run a service business, it's so easy.
Okay.
So my other company, it's called Path 59, and what it does is digital transformation and customer experience consultancy, and we do a lot of user experience design and research as well. So as I mentioned, I've been doing customer experience for a really long time, but we work with really big companies, and we work with traditional companies. And their sales cycles are really, really long. Like a year is not unheard of for getting the first project off the ground. So setting up something where you and I can agree that a plant pot is pretty and I can sell it to you for a cheap price, like now, that's so easy. So it's actually, it's quite funny where in the service business, you're kind of always having to put out thought leadership, you're having to put out articles, you're having to do this. I mean, you'll know this, right?
Yeah. Sure.
You're always having to stay relevant without ever seeing the impact straight away.
Right.
In a product business, I can chuck like a couple of like 20, 30, 40 grand behind Facebook advertising. Boom, I have sales. I mean, it's like, it's instant push and pull. You see a reaction. So it's actually healthier, I think.
And have there been challenges that you so that the quicker sales cycle is really beneficial, but there are other challenges that you find with moving from service or having both service and product?
Yeah, I suppose with the quicker sales cycle, it's also the constant need to replenish, right?
Right.
And the storage and the sort of, so what I'm not great at is ops. So yeah, I mean, I can't take you for a walk around at the moment, but there's boxes everywhere. I'm just, that physical side is still something that I'm I'm learning. So when we move spaces now, I'm going to have an actual packing station, because I tried to outsource the fulfillment, and the company I used was okay, except they just couldn't get it into their head that even though they told me that plants were difficult to pack, they couldn't put a junior person that's just started with packing onto plants.
Right.
So for months they kept breaking things in transit. So it's like, okay, I'm just gonna do it myself. And that actually helped a lot.
So
Because at least I know, like, if something's broken, it's my fault.
And that is the difficult with a fulfillment partner, isn't it? Just getting them to really understand your business and understand the individual needs of it and what makes it special, and especially if you've got fragile objects, that must be a nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, by the end, because I was having to do so much hand holding there, I ended up basically pre-packing everything. When their offer is packing and shipping, and I'm paying double what I should pay to Royal Mail, then and I'm still packing everything, then it just didn't
make sense.
They're from a few of my retail friends that they end up doing it themselves because they just can't get the partner to get that bit, that the things need to arrive safely.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science.
Yeah, and it's your baby in a way, and it's not. Yeah. Not to say that there aren't good solutions out there, but it's just can be difficult, especially if you have fragile products.
Yeah.
So, I guess what I'd like to know is if you have any top tips for anybody who's watching this who is starting off or in the early stages of their business. What would you recommend? Like, what's your big learn from having a product-based business?
That's a really good question, actually. I think, to be honest, because I'm running two businesses with two young children, I'm actually feeling quite tired at the moment. So I think when you start a business, factor in the time, like the time off, which I haven't done, which I'm really bad at. But I think when you're doing something like that, you need to actually think about yourself as well, because you can burn out so quickly. There's so much advice. There's so many, like, do these 5 things and everything will work. Look after yourself, everything else will happen. And it's also like, things take a lot longer than you think. Like I said, like, sales happen quickly, but actually the first sale takes long, unless you know your market straight away. I think another thing I've learned is you really need to get good at one channel before you move on to everything. So in the early stages, I did a lot of figuring out Instagram, and I was still kind of not sure about it. But one of the things I did figure out is if I stop doing it for a week, my sales take a nosedive. And I can't attribute all of them back to Instagram, but it does serve to keep the brand in people's minds. So it obviously has an impact.
Sure. So stick with one channel, get really comfortable with it before you move on.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today. That was really useful. If anyone's got any questions, just do drop them in below, and I'm sure that we'll be able to come back to you and answer them. But thank you very much, and thanks to everyone for watching.
No worries. Bye.